Okay, we'll get started. Good evening. Hello again to everyone who's been here before, and welcome to anyone who's new. If it's your first time, my name's Clare, and this is the third week of a 4-week block of meditation sessions and teachings. We've been doing the 8 verses of thought transformation, and tonight we'll do verses 5 and 6. And I'll start again with the refuge and bodhicitta, the prayer that we do prior to really any Dharma activity, any Dharma meaning Buddhism or the philosophy of Buddhism. And we turn our minds towards the Buddha who became enlightened, freed himself of all stresses and pain and anger and attachment, and freed his mind and became quite sort of blissfully happy, and then taught others how to do it, and it's come down through the ages. Don't know if I've talked about there are quite a few newish people, aren't there? That every week I say, a show of hands, but the life of the Buddha, he was born a prince into a wealthy family, wealthy kingdom, and I think he was an only child. But he grew up in great privilege and wealth, and his parents protected him from the disturbances outside the palace of anything unpleasant. So he grew up being in beautiful surroundings with beautiful food and beautiful people, and he married someone, and she was a very kind person, but they got married and had a child. And then one night he decided to leave the palace and go outside the walls of the compound or whatever and go for a walk. And he discovered, I don't know if it was a night, one time he decided to leave, and he met, saw all the people on the streets and life outside the palace, and he saw, he ran into a sick person on the street, then there was a very old person on the street, and then there was a body of someone who died on the street. And so he was really kind of disturbed, and it was all a bit shocking to him. And then he was sort of wondering why people get sick, why do they get old, and why do they have to die? And so then he started sort of contemplating quite deeply these questions, and he studied Hinduism. India is a Hindu country mostly, and so he studied as much as you possibly could. His wife also studied the texts and Hinduism, and he decided at one point that living in all this wealth and privilege, he wasn't going to find the answers, so he left. He kind of snuck away. His parents were very upset about it, and he left and went on his own adventures as a kind of a mendicant. Those people in India that sort of stand on one foot and study and do all the Hindu practices. And this is not to say this is what you need to do. And he did, just to qualify what happened later, was he came back, and he taught his wife and his son. They became enlightened as well. So it was really for them. The wondering about the sickness and dying and old age wasn't so much for himself, but he was just looking around at everyone and thinking, this is the plight of everyone, and why, and what can we do about it? Is there something that can be done about it, or trying to find answers why this happens? And so he was doing it as much for the people that he loved as for himself, to sort of, and so he did find the answers, and he came back and helped others, and then he studied all of the texts, did all of the practices, and was, at one point he was You can go and visit these places. There's a little monument where this happened. He was dying. He was basically dying of starvation and probably dehydration and everything. And he was lying on the side of the road, and a woman came along with a bowl of rice and milk and fed him, and it revived him. And he was kind of really felt great to be revived by just this milk and rice, and realised it kind of helped his mind. It sort of woke his mind up as well, because he'd been starving for a long time, and it sort of made him feel so much better, and he could focus better. And that's when he sort of thought, right, these practices aren't working, and doing this is actually harmful. So this is part of this thing of the middle way, that you actually have to take care of yourself physically as well. And that was one of the things that he discovered, was you look after your physical well-being, that is interdependent. Your mind is actually working with your physical well-being as well. So then he went off and did his own thing, and his friends weren't very happy about it, and he stopped all these extreme practices, and then just sort of went off and did his own thing, and eventually sat down under the Bodhi tree. And you can go and visit this place where this happened as well. Apparently the tree is still there, and they've built there's a big monument built around this tree, and it may not be the exact same tree, but it's been taken from seeds or cuttings from the original tree down through the ages. So you can go and visit this extraordinary place that's very, very holy, and it's quite. Sorry? It's a living tree. Yes, it's still alive. It's a bit like those big trees with buttresses and stuff, but it's got sort of all its roots and things going like this, and it's quite fabulous in the building. But you can go and visit. Anyway, he sat down under the Bodhi tree and said to himself, I'm not getting up until I've completely all my self-cherishing, all my self-grasping is gone. Like he'd sort of figured out that this is what was holding him back, was that it was his own self-cherishing, and that he was very, very close, and he knew he was close to purifying his mind completely. And he sat down, and I think after 5 days and nights, it happened. This sort of awakening happened, and then after that he sort of wandered off. And he didn't run around going, oh, I've done it, or anything. He was just sort of walking around very peacefully, and ran into, I think there were 5 of his friends that he'd left earlier, and they were kind of like, well, you look amazing. He would have been quite radiant, being so at peace with everything. And they said to him, tell us how you did this. And so he taught them, and they were his first 5 disciples. And when you read the scriptures, their names come up. I can't remember them all. But so he didn't proselytise. He wasn't out to sort of teach anyone. People requested teachings from him, and that's how it started. So that's and then that's his direct lineage has come down through the ages, and our teachers here are part of that lineage. We have 3 really great lamas living here, the Geshis. The Geshe, when someone's referred to as a Geshe, it's the masters of philosophy. It's almost 20 years of study to achieve it, and they get 1 shot. It's an oral exam. They finally get 1 final shot at it, and so we have 3 of them here, which is quite special. But our original Lama, he's been teaching here for 40 years. He's 90 now, and he's fabulous. So they've part of this direct lineage. They're teachers all the way back through 2,500 years, directly back to the Buddha. And so that's how the teachings have survived over millennia. So what they teach is very kind of specific, and when it came to Australia, there were some hippies in the 70s. I'm hoping this is interesting. I think it's sort of nice to know this is how this all started here in Melbourne. Travelling around in Nepal and India as you do, and especially, the hippies in the 70s were right into it all, and doing what you do as a hippie, and in those countries there was a lot of dope smoking, what would you say? All that sort of stuff, and other drugs. And but these people ran into the lamas in Nepal. They'd escaped. A lot of them came over the mountains, over the Himalayas in 1959 when the Dalai Lama left. A lot of them followed. So then there were communities set up in Nepal and in India. And some of these people in Nepal, in Kathmandu, ran into some of the lamas and were quite impressed with them and said to them, teach us. And they were kind of like, go away, like, who are you? And you can't be serious, these kind of long-haired hippies. And so they kept sort of going back. They were super impressed with the lamas and kept going back, and eventually Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe were the two lamas that you see up here. It was them that they met in Nepal, and they eventually said, okay, we'll teach you, but get a haircut kind of thing. They sort of said, clean yourselves up a bit. And so they then said, we'd love to take this back to our countries. There were Germans, Americans, Australians, New Zealanders, I think there were French people. And these two lamas said to them, Lama Yeshe was the older one and the original sort of, and Lama Zopa was his student at the time. And they said, all right, if you bring it back to your countries, you do exactly as we say. You don't go and make up your own wacky version of this, which has happened. And one of the things in the scriptures is to be very careful who your teachers are, because if they're making up their own version of this, or if they're doing it wrong, it's not going to work. And it can be quite harmful because you're messing with your mind, really. So big part of this tradition is to check up. And if it doesn't make any sense to you, then you absolutely don't have to sort of do anything. You do what you're comfortable with. So they came back, and so they've been here since the 70s, I think it was all sort of started happening. And then there's the big Atisha Centre up in Bendigo, was one of the students. Gyatso was one of these original students of Lama Yeshe, and he's now gone into a lifetime retreat. Only a couple of years ago, he's done long retreats, 3-year retreats, and then now he's saying, "That's it. He's and it's because he wants to become enlightened, because he wants to help people that he's doing it." But anyway, so very interesting. It's very, very different to our Western life that we live here. These people, what they've done. So that's why we turn our mind towards the Buddha when we say this prayer. And as our inspiration for, we'd like to purify our minds and have happier, more peaceful lives. And these are through their teachings and inspiration that we might learn something. So I'll just say the prayer. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the highest assembly, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and the other perfections. May I attain the state of a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the highest assembly, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and the other perfections. May I attain the state of a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the highest assembly, from the virtuous merit that I collect by practicing giving and the other perfections. May I attain the state of a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So when I say Gyatso's gone, he was a doctor in Melbourne before he, when he went off travelling, he'd actually been a practicing doctor in Melbourne. And so he's became a monk fairly early on, after he met the lamas, and then has spent his life devoted to teaching and also to building. He's built there's a monastery, there's the Great Stupa up in Bendigo. Maybe some of you know of it. It's a tourist attraction. It's a fabulous place to go and visit. It's huge. It's the size of a football field. They've copied a monastery that was originally in Tibet. It's the same floor plan. They've actually copied it. And there's now a nunnery up there that has just sort of been built over the last few years, and they have a centre like this, just a Dharma centre that you can visit. So there's a lot going on up there. But that all started with Gyatso and Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa. So he's quite an extraordinary character. And when I say, he's gone off to become enlightened, he's with the thought of reincarnation, that your mind travels on. Your body will disintegrate, but your mind, when you think about it, nothing comes from nothing. So it's sort of very hard to find the first moment of your mind, and that they would say the first moment of your mind came from the last moment of your last life. So your mind travels on. So, and they say, becoming enlightened, you don't necessarily do it in one lifetime. You can do it over, well, they say eons. It can take a very long time. So, I'll get into the rest, the verse 5 and 6. These are 8 verses, just for anyone who's new tonight, or that they were written by Geshe Langri Tangpa, and he basically explains the whole path in these 8 verses. It's the practices of really everything you need to do to actually help shift your mind. And it's all about shifting our habits. It's about shifting our self-cherishing and our self-grasping, which is really what's holding us back. Because if we're constantly thinking about ourselves, we're not thinking about others. And then if we're constantly thinking about ourselves, so we're going to react to anything and everything that happens to me. And it's going to be an endless round of reacting, and then putting those imprints into your mind for it to happen again, and the habits of the way that we react. And we know that we react differently than other people, and we've developed our own patterns of behaviour throughout our lives. And that's all dependent on everything that's ever happened to us. Where we were born, our parents, our schooling, our friends, everything we've ever got involved in has had an impact on our mind and determines the way that we look at everything. So therefore, our normal society would sort of tell you that you sort of look out for number one, very much so in the Western culture. So we've developed these social behaviours and attitudes that are not necessarily very helpful. And so these verses are really confronting, and these 5 and 6 are probably, I find, the most difficult. But I've been studying this for years now. I've been coming here since the 90s. I've been here over 30 years, listening to these teachings over and over and over, and slowly trying to chip away at my habits, or becoming more aware of my negativities, and becoming more aware of how helpful this is when you think, you listen to this, you think about it, and then we'll meditate. And that's how this constant work. And over time, it is about the end goal, but it's also about, the benefits that you gain along the way. Over time, your mind becomes softer, life becomes easier. Life out there doesn't become easier. It just sort of still keeps happening, but your ability to cope with it and your perspectives actually help, and it's less traumatic, less difficult. So verse 5, I won't go through it all because then that's too much information. We'll just do these 2 verses tonight. When out of envy others mistreat me with abuse, insults and the like, I shall accept the defeat and offer the victory to others. So what that is saying is, and someone said it yesterday, we did a course here yesterday, and Larissa said, this woman was talking about her husband, and she talks to the lamas and stuff about her life and her husband. And I think one of the things that Geshe Doka told her was, it's better to be kind than to be right. So what this verse is saying is, if you're in an argument with someone or a difficult situation, there's a point where you can see that person's either not listening, doesn't want to listen, is not interested in your point of view, or they absolutely believe they're right and they're not listening. And I think everybody knows that situation. You've been there. And there's a point where you just think, okay, I'll just let it go. Let them have it. Let them feel. And what happens is that they might actually appreciate that you've let it go. Or just give them the win. Let them have it. If it's kind of life-threatening, or if it's threatening to other people, then I think you have to sort of act. I think, and His Holiness makes a distinction. If it's just about you, they're saying, let it go, and let your ego go. And you can actually talk to yourself and say, this is just my ego. Just let it go. Let my ego go. And you have moments of thinking, yeah. And then you can kind of relax. And it's hard work. It takes a lot of practice. But it's really about also understanding that nothing is actually worth sort of getting angry and getting stressed about. And if you can sort of learn to let things go, your life becomes easier. It's a really tricky one. So what does... I've got a couple of different versions here of... There's a book, the Dalai Lama refers to this, and I brought it in. It's called The Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And Geshe Lobsang I was just looking for a student, she's not here, is teaching on this book at the moment. And chapter 6 is called Patience. And it's probably the longest chapter in the book. And the opposite of anger is patience, and it's not the patience that sort of hangs on by your fingernails, it's the patience of not getting angry. So you have to learn how to actually not get upset, and you have to learn how to know the difference to when you can pursue something or let it go. And there really is a point where you need to let things go, because you're just going to get angry and you're retaliating, and they're going to get more angry and push back, and then you're going to get more angry and push back, and you're in a never-ending battle and nobody wins. So it's about that as well, that when you retaliate, then you've created the cause for them to retaliate to you again. So it's that thing about not snapping. And it's that, when I was talking about my sister, we've argued all our lives kind of things and knew how to press our buttons. But there was a point where I sort of understood that if I stopped arguing with her, if I stopped reacting to things that I don't like or don't agree with, and I just sort of started letting a few things go, and she relaxed around me. She actually felt more comfortable in my company because I wasn't constantly barking at her. And then so she stopped sort of stopped pressing my buttons, and I stopped reacting. And they say in a relationship, it only takes one person to do this for the relationship to survive. The other one can probably keep misbehaving. As long as you understand how to have a perspective on it and how to work with it, you will survive. Because they'll feel safe around you. And it's not about being a doormat. There's a point where you walk away, or if it's not working anymore, or if the situation is getting too angry, then that's not healthy either. And it's not saying just let them keep doing nasty things. It's not that. And that's not healthy for you, it's not healthy for them, and you're empowering them to do more bad behaviour, which is it's bad karma on their part too. So you can't empower people to behave badly. So there's a fine line, and you have to kind of just work with it. But in this Bodhisattva's Way of Life, I've just taken a few verses from the chapter on patience. Verse 25 in that says, all mistakes are, and all various kinds of evil arise. All mistakes that are evil, and all the various kinds of evil arise through the force of conditions. They do not govern themselves. These conditions that assemble together have no intention to produce anything, neither does their product have the intention to be produced. So this is kind of why you need to listen to the lamas or to the teachings to interpret what these are saying. So they're saying all mistakes and evil arrive through the force of conditions. They do not govern themselves. Now, someone that's very angry and very jealous may do something nasty to you. You're getting in their way, there might be a promotion at work or something like that, and they're willing to kind of elbow you out of the way, or tell stories, or do whatever it takes for them to get ahead. They have, obviously, things in their lives have caused them to behave this way. It's not nice. And it's not normal to behave like that. And they're not, it's not everybody behaves like this, and we all kind of do every now and then to a little degree. But people that behave really, really badly, you can look at them and sort of think, well, what happened to you to cause you to behave this way? Why are you so angry? And you can really see that there must have been something happen. People don't get angry for no reason. And the thing about anger is that it stays with you. Everything you've ever thought, said or done is still there on your mind stream. It's all still there. And so if you're an angry person, if something's happened, it could be trauma, it could be something really terrible has happened, and you've never kind of really dealt with it, and you just grow up really angry, you become more and more angry, and your natural way of reacting is angry. And then you sort of, I knew someone, she used to snap all the time. She'd snap, and people sort of started keeping their distance, and it just wasn't fun to be around her. And then one day she said to me, I know I get angry, but I get over it very quickly. So she thought she was fine, but unaware of the impact that it was having. So this is sort of what happens. But it's come from somewhere, and it's this person is not, you sort of label them, okay, they're an angry, unpleasant person, but there's a whole lot of things have happened, causes and conditions, and things happening in their mind, and stresses and anxieties, and Lord knows what's going on. And so it's not them. They're this, and all of us are the way our mind works and responds to things. And we forgive ourselves, and we know what's happened to us. And, if you had time to explain to everyone why you acted in a certain way. So it's a way of looking at someone that's actually behaving really badly. and developing a sense of compassion for them. And then maybe they really need to have the victory right now. So you give it to them. And that doesn't mean you're a doormat. That means you actually can feel good about yourself. When occasionally when I've done this, I walk away feeling a bit better that I didn't engage in something unpleasant. And I don't know. You can't control another person, but you can control yourself. Hence, everything is governed by other factors, which in turn are governed by others, and in this way nothing governs itself. Having understood this, I should not become angry with phenomena that are like apparitions. So they're saying like apparitions because everyone is a bunch of, your physical body is a bunch of atoms and subatomic atoms, and you came from the sperm and egg of your parents, and you're constantly physically changing, and you're not an inherently existing gorgeous young thing. You're constantly changing and aging. So there's this constant sort of movement and change, and your mind is doing the same thing, and your mind is dependent on your body. As your body ages and you sort of become aware, that has an impact on your mind. And so everything that's happening in the external physical world is having an impact on your mental state as well. And your mental state is in constant flux and constantly changing. This moment is determining the next moment, which will determine the next moment. And so there's great hope in that, because we sort of think of all the things that we've done in our lives and not proud of, and the list is endless. I can go on. I'm not going to, but it's huge when you really think back and you think, oh my God, this is terrible. And that's why, we act the way we act, because we've got all of this sort of garbage that is kind of driving us as well. And so the thing is that you by making this a positive moment, the next moment will be positive. So you start to feed your mind, you start to have these nice thoughts and nice practices and try to change your habits, and so that your habits become better and that your thinking becomes better and more sort of loving and compassionate and kind, and your next moment will be more loving and compassionate and kind. And those things, what you put out into the universe comes back to you. It doesn't mean that things won't still happen, but it does mean that because of your state of mind, you can deal with it better, and you can still have this loving and kind energy. The definition of love in Buddhism is wishing the other to be happy, and it's not oh, you're nice to me, I love you, and when you're not nice to me, I don't love you anymore. It's even when you're not nice to me, I'll still love you, I'll still wish for you to be happy. And it's huge and it's difficult, but you don't wish them to be happy in their bad behaviour. You don't wish to, go out and make yourself happy and abuse somebody. It's not like that. It's you wish them to learn how to be kind and loving and peaceful and have some peace in their own mind and find some happiness in their own minds. That's what you're wishing for them. And compassion is wishing them to be free of their suffering. And the suffering of anger, we all know what anger feels like. It's not pleasant. And extreme attachment, when you really want something, it drives you insane until you can get it or not. It's an uncomfortable feeling. And even when you get things, it can sort of be uncomfortable because then you're afraid of losing them. And then all the problems that come with having something, like, buying a new car and then something's wrong with it, or next year's model is better and you're not happy with the car anymore, or you're in a relationship and then you have to deal with that, and it's not easy, even when it's going well, And then eventually someone's going to have to die, like you eventually we pass away. So even relationships that have been good end in sadness and hardship. My sister, who I talk about, she passed away last year, and she was married for 51 years. So her husband he's doing fine, but how would that be? It was really hard for him. It's really awful. And they had a great life together, but now he has to go on his own, and it's sad. He's fine. He's doing really well. There's grandchildren. He's got his children, his grandchildren. Everyone's looking out for him. But those children are suffering as well. All my nephews, they've just lost their mother. And it's really sad. And we all, everyone's... There's another thing in the scriptures that a woman, her son died or something, and she went running, screaming to the Buddha, saying, my son's died, my son died. And, can you bring him back or help me or whatever? And the Buddha said, don't know if it was about bringing him back, or he might have said, okay. But he can't do that. The Buddha can't actually change anybody, can't actually do magical things and do stuff like that. But he probably said, yes, I'll help you, or, I'll make it all better. If you go and knock on the door, every door in the village, and find me someone that hasn't been touched by death. So, where it's all hardship out there, and we have moments of feeling good, but a lot of it is really tough. And so, I don't know if I digress or if it's relevant, but just that everything's changing, and that people are not. Nothing's going to last forever, and that person isn't that we see as angry. Someone else sees them as fabulous and loves them. So it's also part of our karmic interaction with people as well. Causes our particular vision of what's going on here. Someone else is having a completely different interaction with the same person and seeing them very, very differently. So it's all of our stuff that we bring to the table as well that causes us to experience things in a particular way. It's very interesting. So that's what they're saying, that phenomena are like apparitions. They're they're there, it's happening, but it's happening in terms of our karma and their karma interacting. So our experience is completely different to the person next door to you. And that person doesn't exist out there the way we think they do, because someone else sees them completely differently. So who are they? So you have to sort of start to think about things like that. And that basically we're all just a bunch of energy. This is all atoms and subatomic atoms and what have you. And your mind is kind of psychic energy. It's mental energy. And karma is energy. Karma is just what you put into your mind and how your mind acts. So if I become angry with the yielder, although I am actually harmed by his stick, then since he too is secondary, being in turn incited by hatred, I should really be angry with his hatred. So they're saying if someone's very angry and behaving really badly, it's like someone hitting you with the stick, or being hit with the stick. It's the stick that harms you. It's a bit of a tricky one, but they're sort of saying it's their anger that's harming you. It's not the person. It's their anger in their heart that is harming you, which is, they become then a source of compassion. You want them to be free of that anger and jealousy and pride and whatever's motivating them. That's what's motivating them. It's not them. They don't go around thinking I'm the most horriblest person on earth. They, people don't think that way about themselves. We all think we're nice. Even when we're behaving badly, we excuse ourselves. So it's like that. You blame, it's the anger, it's what's driving them. And I'm finding this really helpful to be reading all of this at the moment for, people that I know, that I can think this way. I find it really helpful. It's just their psychosis. It's their tricky things that are going on in their mind that are causing them to behave that way. So that's sad. Previously, I must have caused similar harm to other sentient beings. Therefore, it is right for this harm to be returned to me, who is the cause of injury to others. And I think that's fairly self-explanatory. There is a big thing that, if this is happening to me, then I must have done it to someone else, or I must have done something similar. And when we plant seeds in our mind, an action is a seed that's planted in your mind. Nothing's ever lost. And seeds, these thoughts and acts and behaviours that are in our mind are continually growing. And the analogy is a tree. So you plant a seed, you get a whole tree that produces a lot more seeds. So that's how our minds actually work. We're constantly sort of growing. So the meditation that we're going to do later on there's the great thing. I mean, this tradition has answers for everything, and we can feel fairly hopeless and think, oh my God, all the terrible things that I've done in my life. But they have a thing called purification, and it's a bit like going to confession or something. But it's a way of, first of all, you have to own your actions. It's very hard for us to admit we've done things wrong, but it's a really, really good practice. And I think modern psychology would say it's something like 90% of the job is done if you can actually own something and say, my bad, and really own it. Because mostly we're just moving on, and all of that negative stuff that we've done or said or thought, it's just driving us. But when you turn around and look at it, you can free yourself of it. You can unburden yourself. It's cathartic to actually sort of own your things. And then we have these purification practices. So you do a beautiful meditation. Actually, anything that you do connected to the Buddha, thinking about the Buddha, can be a form of purification, because it's such a powerfully positive image, it's such a powerfully positive thing to do, that if you're doing that, thinking about something and thinking, that's really bad, I wish I hadn't done it, or I wish that hadn't happened, or I'm really, really sorry, and there's nothing you can do about it now, it might be 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it's still in your mind, and you can unburden yourself of it by being really, really sorry about it, and then think of something really powerfully positive like the Buddha or Chenrezig, which is the practice that we're going to do a bit later on. Or a ball of light, as simple as a ball of light, if you're not really into sort of visualising these things, a ball of light that is filled with love and compassion, wishing others to be free of their suffering, wishing others to be filled with happiness, including myself, because I'm a sentient being as well, including this love and compassion for all beings in the form of light above your head, sending it out to all beings, and then bringing the light down into your heart and filling your body with love and compassion is a form of purification. It's something you can do any time of the day. What else have I got? There's so much information around this stuff. So verse 6 is, when somebody whom I have benefited and in whom I have great hopes gives me terrible harm, I shall regard that person as my guru. And when I first heard this a long time ago, I thought, oh, that terrible person, I have to think of them as my guru, and sort of look at them like, maybe they sort of talk about you don't know who you're talking to, or you don't know who a person is. They may actually be a Buddha, and they've appeared to give you this lesson at this particular time. And I was sort of thinking that about someone, and I was talking to one of the lamas one day, and I said, "Oh, is this person a Buddha?" And he went, "No." He said, "No, that's not the way you look at this. What they're doing is they're giving you the opportunity to practice patience. So you don't get that for the people that are kind to you and that you love and that you forgive all the time. You don't actually, or we do have to practice patience with the people we love and we care about. But you're not going to learn the true meaning of patience without having these opportunities, without having these difficult situations or difficult people to practice with. And that patience actually means not getting angry. And imagine, like, whatever terrible thing happens, you don't have that uncomfortable feeling. Doesn't mean they're not wrong. Doesn't mean they're not doing the wrong thing. Doesn't mean you don't actually do something about it if you can. But you just don't get angry. And that your mind is at peace all of the time by having patience. And understanding that anger's not going to help. It's only going to hurt me. And who really suffers? You know, someone's said or done something terrible and they're pleased with themselves, and then you go off and get filthy angry and you just feel like crap. Who's the anger really hurting? It's not hurting them. So that's what this is about. It's sort of, I shall regard that person as my guru. So usually we expect people whom we've helped a great deal to be grateful, and if they react to us with ingratitude, we're likely to get angry. In such situations, we should not get upset but practice patience instead. Moreover, we should see such people as teachers testing our patience and therefore treat them with respect. This verse contains all the Bodhicharya teachings on patience. So he's saying that verse, chapter 6 in this book, which is quite long, is all contained in that verse. And I was reading this afternoon and I kind of couldn't put it down. I sort of thought, I should read some of this. It's the Bodhicharya, what's the word? Bodhicharya. Bodhicharya Avatara is the Sanskrit term for the Bodhisattva's way of life. And as I said, Geshe Losang is teaching on this at the moment. And I was going to ask Ingrid, but she's not here, what chapter he's up to. So he's teaching this on Wednesday nights. And I don't always make it, but I really think I'm not sure, I think he might have just started chapter 6. But reading this was just so helpful. Just all of the ways that you can counteract your anger and learn patience. And I think the two big things that we do wrong that harms us is attachment, because attachment is a really unhealthy state of mind. It's different to love. Love is really wanting the other to be happy. Attachment is hanging on to something because it's making me happy. And you'll never be fully satisfied. You'll never be fully happy, and then often the objects of our attachment can make us very unhappy in one way or another. So attachment's not great, and again, the ability to sort of understand that there's no point in sort of hanging on. But it doesn't mean to not have things. It just means to understand that they don't last forever. And understand that you appreciate things while they're there, and if they're gone, that's the nature. The true nature of things is their lack of inherent existence. Nothing lasts forever. So we sort of start to think this way, and it makes things easier. And it means that you can have things and people in your life and stuff, but you're just not so dependent on them for your happiness, because it's not going to happen anyway. And then you actually appreciate things and feel more comfortable and happy with them. And so that's the other sort of attachment and aversion are the two big. And then the final one is the ignorance of not really understanding the reality of this mass of energy that is constantly in flux and moving, and that our mind is constantly in flux and moving, and that if we can sort of really come to understand the nature of reality, that's the way to finding peace. And so it's with attachment and anger that we cloud our minds and can't get in touch with the reality of the clarity and purity of our mind that exists. And they say that this purity, the clear and pure mind, is the nature of reality, and we cloud it with all of this other stuff, so that what we're trying to do is sort of clear some of this and just get in touch with this more peaceful state. And it's our sort of ignorance that grasps onto things. We keep just sort of running back and labelling everything as solid, and that's the major thing that we're sort of doing wrong. And next week I'll talk more about that. And the antidote to that is understanding the nature of reality. And then when you come to have an understanding of the nature of reality, you can just, everything's much easier. And the Dalai Lama says that he has no fear of death. I mean, you often hear the Lamas talking, death is a big thing in this tradition, so because we're all facing it. And it's if nothing else, this can help you have a peaceful passing. But when you really gain control of your mind, you can actually control the next moment of your mind. You can actually have control at the time of death. And the Dalai Lama says it's like changing your clothes. Wake up tomorrow and you're someone else. Or as one teacher said, you can wake up and you're covered in fur. You might be some critter somewhere. But so we're trying to sort of just have positive states of mind, and then that creates more positive states of mind. So we'll do this Chen Razik meditation now because I'm running out of time. But that's the final point on that was that anger is worse than attachment. Anger causes so much more damage, because with attachment you can still do positive actions. You might have wrong attachment, but you can be doing kindness with attachment, even though you might have a sort of slightly wrong view of what's going on or be too attached. You can still actually do good things. But with anger, there's nothing good comes from anger. So they're saying anger is the big ticket item, and I tend to agree that it's really hard. So that's why I think that the chapter on patience is the biggest chapter in that book. So Chen Razik is the Buddha of compassion, also called Avalokiteshvara is the Sanskrit word. So you'll hear Avalokiteshvara, but it's the same, Chen Razik. There's a beautiful statue in the gallery here in Melbourne of the 1,000-armed Chen Razik. And so it's the same but different, but he has 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes, and it refers, everything has symbolism. But it's in the gallery, the National Gallery, the gallery in Melbourne. Yeah, in the Asian section. Yeah, it's not super huge, but it's quite beautiful. It's really lovely. I think it came from Nepal. A lot of the best statues are made in Nepal. Okay, better get on with this. The Dalai Lama says compassion benefits not only others but ourselves as well. As the Dalai Lama has said, if you want others to be happy, practice loving compassion. And if you want yourself to be happy, practice loving compassion. So it makes you happy to be kind to others. And we know that. We know that it feels good to be kind. It feels good in traffic when you let someone through. And, my instinct is not to. But when I just say, calm down, Claire, and just let them, and then I feel good. And they wave, and you've had a nice interaction. So, much better than me not letting them through, and then they're angry and annoyed, and I'm not feeling too good about myself. So, if you want others to be happy, practice loving kindness and compassion. If you want yourself to be happy, practice loving kindness and compassion. So the mantra, I'll just quickly run through for anyone who's new tonight, that I'll say the mantra, you can say it or not, and it's a pretty easy one to learn. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om meaning body, speech and mind. Mani is the bodhicitta, it's the altruistic wish to be better myself in order that I can benefit others. This is all about benefiting other sentient beings. That's the key to my happiness, is the wish to benefit others. And so they call it bodhicitta, the wish to become enlightened in order to benefit others. So that's the Mani. Om Mani Padme is, the word is lotus, and here it means wisdom. So having the wisdom, all sorts of wisdom, the wisdom to know the difference between right and wrong, but also the wisdom of understanding the lack of inherent existence, the wisdom of understanding reality. So when you mix bodhicitta with wisdom, this altruistic wish to benefit others and then to learn the wisdom to understand the nature of reality, and you combine those two things, that's a powerful state of mind. And that's the mind of Chenrezig. So meditating on these images, Chenrezig's holding a crystal rosary in his right hand and a white lotus, difficult for people on that side of the room to see, but a white lotus in this hand, and the wish-fulfilling jewel, wishing to become enlightened, is sort of like a blue egg shape in his two palms. And realizations, the crystal rosary is the realizations, the lotus can mean, it's also a flower that has, there's a decaying flower and there's a bud, so it's past, present and future, so understanding all of the past, present and future. So having a complete sort of, a Buddha's mind is completely clairvoyant and can see the past, present and future. So there's lots of symbolism. It's worth reading up if you're interested. But just visualising the image in itself is very powerful. You don't have to know what all of the symbols mean. You don't have to know what the mantra means. A mantra is a form of vibration. And just by saying this mantra, like I was saying last week, it's the first mantra that every little child in Tibet learns. This is what the parents teach them. They probably say this before they speak anything else. Their parents would be saying Om Mani Padme Hum to them. And the Hum is the union of method and wisdom, the union of bodhicitta and wisdom. So you often see this Hum symbol or sound comes up a lot. And that's the whole everything in it. So when you say this mantra, it contains everything. And so visualising Chenrezig, it's a visual representation of this compassionate state of mind. So it's not something that we can sort of hang on to. So the Buddhas have developed these imagery over the years to give us something to visualise, and in that visualisation is pure compassionate energy. And while you're visualising that and saying the mantra, you're not having angry thoughts. And it's about focus as well. You need to focus. So we do a little bit of breathing meditation, and I'll quickly run through. I'll go through the meditation quickly because we're running out of time. But you can actually take your time with these if you do it at home. This book, How to Meditate by Kathleen MacDonald, is really terrific. It has all the meditations that cover sort of everything. And it's only this big. It's out of, I don't think it's out of print, but we don't have any, but you can get it online if you're really interested. It's got nice little little meditations in it. Little talks, little meditations, and it's really good. I had it as a beginner and I'm still using it. All right, so sitting with your spine straight. If you're on a chair, it's good to have your feet flat on the ground and try and just tilt your hips forward and have the spine straight so the energy can travel. And just bringing your mind inwards. Left hand down, right hand on top, thumbs touching. You don't have to do that, it's just the way the Tibetans do it, but it's an energy thing. And just relax the shoulders, relax the arms. And just breathing naturally. And just focusing on the breath for a while and letting go of any thoughts that you're having at the moment. Just thinking now, I'll just focus on the breath for now. That's the object for my mind to focus on, and just let go of all other thoughts. Focusing on the in-breath and the out-breath, and just breathing naturally. And then imagining your mind is this clear space. You visualize like looking up into a clear blue sky, and bringing that down into yourself. Your mind is this clear, open space. And all your thoughts are like clouds passing across the sky. They just pass and let them go. And just bring yourself back to the breath and focus as best you can just on the breath. And then when you've drifted off, remind yourself, just come back to the breath and let go of your thoughts. So we just generate a positive motivation for doing the meditation. We sincerely wish to free our minds of all negativities and fill our minds and hearts with kindness and love and compassion in order that we can actually be of great benefit to other beings. Now imagine that all the space is filled with beings sitting around you and extending beyond the horizon. If you find it difficult to think of all beings, think of as many as you can comfortably. Your parents, your mother on your left, your father on your right, and family members are beside you. The female members are on your left and the male members of your family are sitting on your right. Your friends are behind you, and people you don't get along with are in front of you, and all others are around. Contemplate the suffering of these people and beings. First think of the sufferings of your parents and the other people you are close to. Open your heart to the physical and psychological problems they are experiencing, and think that just like you, they want to be free from all suffering. Feel how wonderful it would be if they were free and could enjoy the peace and bliss of enlightenment. This includes all animals, creatures, and beings in other realms. Then think of the people you do not like or who have hurt you. Imagine their suffering, physical pain and discomfort, feelings of loneliness, insecurity, fear, dissatisfaction. Just like you, they don't want problems, but they have no choice. As long as the mind is confused and ignorant of reality, it cannot find peace. Open your heart to these people for whom normally you feel irritation or anger. Expand your awareness to take in the troubles and pain of all human beings and of animals. Whoever has an uncontrolled mind necessarily has suffering. But don't be overwhelmed by all of this. Remember that suffering, unhappiness and pain are mental experiences, impermanent and changeable. They arise because of misunderstandings and confused emotions. And once their causes have been eliminated, they disappear. It is a matter of each one of us working on our own mind, dealing with our own misconceptions and negative energy, and gradually developing a correct understanding of the way things actually exist. Feel strongly the aspiration to do this yourself, so that you can help others to be free of their suffering. Now visualize above your head and facing the same way as you, Avalokiteshvara, or Chenrezig, the manifestation of pure, unobstructed compassion, love and wisdom. His body is white light, transparent and radiant. Try to feel his living presence. His face is peaceful and smiling, and he radiates his love to you and all beings surrounding you. He has 4 arms. His first 2 hands are together at his heart and hold a jewel that fulfills all wishes. His second are raised at the level of his shoulders, the right holding a crystal rosary and the left a white lotus. He is sitting on a white moon disk upon an open lotus, his legs crossed in the full lotus posture. He wears exquisite silk and precious jewels. Hold your awareness on this visualization. Stay relaxed and comfortable and open to Chenrezig's serene and loving energy. Now make a prayer from your heart to overcome your misconceptions and negative energy, and to develop pure love and compassion for all beings. Feel that you are connecting with your own true nature, your highest potential. In response to your request, Chenrezig lovingly sends streams of white light, filling every cell and atom of your body. It purifies all your negativities and problems, all your past harmful actions and your potential to give harm in the future. And completely fills you with his limitless love and compassion. Your body feels light and blissful, your mind peaceful and clear. The light from Avalokiteshvara Chenrezig then radiates out to every living being, purifying their negative energy and filling them with bliss. Now, while concentrating on this visualization, we'll recite the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. I'll chant it and then say it out loud a few times, and then we'll say it silently for a while. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Okay, just bring your mind back to the room. I didn't bring this out earlier, but we often, when you're saying a mantra, it's good to actually have a mala. Geshe Doka said someone said, why do you count on the mala? And he said, it's just good to know how many you've done. It's kind of nice to, so you might just do one mala, or if it's feeling good, you could just keep going and do 10 malas. It's also good when you're doing that sort of meditation to really think of the people. It actually, instead of just sort of thinking, oh, I'm getting bored or whatever, if you can visualise, start expanding your visualisation to really think of people and send them the love and compassion. And it can be really quite lovely when you really, really think of people and make it very real, but also filling yourself with light. And you can sort of like the light shining out from every pore of you as well. So I have kept you. If there's any questions, I'm always open to questions, and there's no... Look, I'll just quickly, sorry to keep you. Last week someone came up at the end and said, what if, and I think I touched on it tonight, what if someone is being really abusive, or you're in a really difficult situation? Are you supposed to be doing this, practicing your patience and love and compassion with them? And I'd say, absolutely not. If in a sense, yes, but in another sense, you don't put yourself in the line of fire to do these practices, and you can have compassion from a distance. You don't have to be in. It's if you're in a difficult situation, or you can remove yourself from the situation. Doesn't mean you don't have compassion and you don't have love for that person or whatever. And the thing that comes to mind, firstly, is domestic violence. Is kind of one of an extreme situation that I would think of. That there's no point. You don't stay and say, oh, I have to practice patience and compassion and love for this person who maybe you once did love and have attachment for or whatever. But you can still do these meditations, you can still have compassion for them, you can still feel very sad that their state of mind, but you need to protect yourself. And so it's not about being a doormat and laying down and saying, oh, I'm being a Buddhist here and doing this. And people get that wrong. People do get that wrong. You talk to people over the years that think that you have to kind of... Actually, she refers to it as idiot compassion. You know, you have to be careful. And you can't get involved in other people's problems as well. I mean, you can, if you can deal with it, but it doesn't mean drag yourself down by having compassion for other people and trying to help them solve their problems. And it's not, and you can't. Maybe you can do something to help them and then do it, you know. But if they're not, if it's very, very difficult to help even one other person. But it doesn't mean you don't have compassion for them. But absolutely not staying in a difficult situation, whatever it is. And if you can deal with it, then that's fantastic. And you know, the great practitioners, they kind of say, well, bring it on, because it gives them more opportunity to practice compassion and love. And their peace and happiness grows as they practice these things. It's like that you know, see these people as your guru. They're here to help you develop these wonderful qualities. And then in that way, you can be thankful to them. They're really helping you to develop these powerful, positive states of mind. So I just thought I'd better say that, because it is something that people can get confused about. So there's a cup of tea and cake in the dining room. So thank you.